employees are going through. So I would really, really, really like us to go to full pay, and we will at the soonest opportunity when we can afford to.
Very well. So that was the conversation that Eric Latif had with the very good CEO, I beg your pardon, of the national carrier Kenya Airways today concerning the salaries and of the pilots right there. And they have issued a statement. They want their salaries reinstated to 100%, even as the airline is currently now reporting a bit of revamp, a bit of comeback towards the economy. Of course, we are seeing the airlines all over Africa are operating. There is no closure. There are no censorship of movements and everything. We just want to take stock of this and what this means to the aviation bit of the economy, aviation sector particularly. Joining me now is a seasoned writer and an editor right here in Standard Group. That is Patrick Alishula. He wants to help us put this conversation to perspective. Alishula, good to see you. What do we know so far about this developing story?
Good to see you, Brian. I think people are forgetting very fast that what is happening at KQ is a situation that was just worsened by COVID, but we know that this is an airline that was already in a problem even before COVID set in.
True, because they've been reporting losses.
Sure. Because we are talking of an airline that has accumulated losses of, let's say, around 127 billion right now in its books. That's by the end of June. Yeah. So the problem that we are seeing at the moment is just a continuation of what used to be there pre-COVID, but COVID worsened it. Now we are in a situation where the CEO has to sort of strike a balance between the different parties that make up an organization. We have employees.
Sure.
They deserve their pay, because that's what, at the end of the day, may keep them motivated to even keep the airline running.
And perform better.
Yes, but on the other side, we have suppliers. For example, people who are able to ensure that KQ gets the things that keeps it running, and they are owed money. We have banks, the people who give the airline money for it to finance the things that it needs. They also need money. So at the end of the day, it's a balance that needs to be found
to be struck.
And it's not an easy thing to find yourself in.
I mean, we appreciate the fact that we are in very unprecedented times. We've been dealing with a pandemic. KQ, as you observe, really has been going through a bit of tough time. There's been a bit of economic turbulence, as seen by their financial reports. Recently, they recalled some stuff.
Sure.
Do you think this move right now, with what they're saying, that they cannot now pay pilots 100%, and the recent move of calling the staff, what do you make of that move?
I think calling some of the staff back was just a sign that there's some recovery, and we must appreciate that, for example, domestic flights have resumed, international flights are also working.
Sure.
And some good capacity. You can't compare, for example, with the situation that we had in April, March last year, when nearly everything was on standstill. So there's that recovery, and as it recovers, indeed KQ has also tried to sort of ensure that as it recovers, it's also trying to reinstate salaries, but though gradually. For example, at one point, I think there was a cut as steep as 80%. We are now back to cuts that are just 30% remaining for them to make up for the full pay. So there's been that recovery, but I think the employees' feeling is that the recovery is complete and they are entitled to full pay. But on one side, let's not forget that we have suppliers. For example, by end of December, trade payables, and that could be amount that is owed to suppliers, was about 32 billion.
32 billion.
Then banks, on the other hand, 102 billion. These are figures that if you try to figure out, for example, how did KQ manage to keep on paying salaries even though they were reduced? It's all because they were able to negotiate with such people and tell them to hold on. But if all suppliers were to be paid on time, all the maturing loans were to be serviced on time, I don't think if KQ will still be seen in the skies.
And of course, we are still talking about, when we are looking at all the interested parties, we're also looking at interest of the shareholders. There are people who have invested, there are guys who've bought KQ shares right there. But now let's talk about CALPA, the Association of Pilots. They have to issue a statement. Have we heard from them? What do we know from them so far?
CALPA, from their statement yesterday, was that they have a feeling that there's a recovery, and they think that KQ is now in a better position to be able to afford full salaries, which is something that is still debatable. Because first of all, KQ is a listed company. We haven't seen their financials, for example, to say that there's a full recovery yet. So it's something that you find that they're capturing that in words, but in numbers, all we know is that domestic flights, for example, they're at about 90% recovery. International flights, we are talking about 52%. They're trying to do some things around cargo. They're doing some things around partnering with some airlines. And that is going to get...
The South Africa Airlines.
Yes, okay. It's going to take time for them to realize
the benefits.
Such a recovery. Because pre-COVID, let's never forget that 90% of KQ revenue was tied on passengers.
Okay.
Yet we had a very steep reduction in passenger numbers.
And we even saw them repurposing some of the passenger planes to cargo.
Yeah, to cargo.
All right. Many thanks. My colleague Paul Alushula right there just dotting the I's and crossing the T's on what is now a developing story at the national carrier, the Kenya Airways, concerning the request or the order by the Association of Pilots to resume 100% salaries. This is a story we are keeping our eyes and ears on. We want to bring it to a conclusive end because you deserve to know. So Centum Investment Group cut its half-year losses by 67%.